This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the From the Back Tees podcast, the podcast from the Back Tees. I am Jerry Lou. With me, as always, is Zach Pencer, founder of From the Back Tees. Zach, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I am all right. I am down one tooth, but don't nobody worry about me. Had a little impromptu, well, it wasn't impromptu. It was a few weeks of dental issues coming to fruition, but had to be dealt with today. And, I managed to pull the gauze out of the mouth for the first time to make sure we got this done. So. And
now you got the tooth, and the girlfriend's ecstatic.
Oh yeah, I got the tooth right here. It's been, I don't think I'll make a necklace out of it because I think I still see my flesh on the root. And maybe one day, if somebody can see the archives of this, like I had this out in my hand earlier, like I was playing around with it like it was a little marble. Because sorry folks at home, you can't see it, and it's probably disgusting. But 15 years ago, actually, funny story. We're recording this on July 1st, 2019. July 2nd, 2009 was the day I got out of the military. So tomorrow's my 10-year anniversary of being a civilian.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a lot of fun. But anyways, when I was in the service, they said I had low grooves in my molars, so they filled them up with a sealant, much like a filling. And then about 3 years ago, when I was sitting at my desk at tech support, working at Foresight down in San Diego, I think I was chewing some gum, and I felt like part of my tooth come out. And it turns out it was just a little chunk of the sealant. I'm like, oh, that's no big deal. It doesn't hurt. But I realized, oh, now there's a hole in my tooth. And as my dentist said earlier today, he's just like, yeah, once that hole opened up, there's no way you can keep it clean. And for the past 3 weeks, I've been feeling incredible head pain, jaw pain, like there was definitely an infection that was going around there. So when I woke up this morning super early, I was like, yeah, today's the day to remove it. So regardless, we're here to record a show. The beat goes on, no matter what.
Is there one band in Dune Central dentist?
No, well, that's the thing. Most of our caddies, I would probably say like 90% of our caddy lot, when they're residing in this county for their work purposes, 90% of them reside in Bandon. And I would say 8 to 9% of them reside in Coos Bay, North Bend, which is about 30 minutes north, because that's like the big, quote, city in the area of 30,000 people. And then I live in Coquille, and I think me and Craig Prouse are the only two caddies that live in Coquille, and he moved to Coquille when he made a bunch of money and bought a house. So, I mean, it's, I wouldn't say there isn't a caddy dentist, so to speak. I mean, in this area, I walk around with like my Bandon Dunes zip-up hoodie or like a 3/4 zip shirt or whatever with a logo on it, and some people still don't understand what that logo means in the county. A lot of people ask, like travelers, people who come in and golf, they're just like, so what kind of economic boon has Bandon Dunes Golf Resort been to the county? I'm like, none. Yes, it provides hundreds of minimum wage jobs. No, maybe even 1,000. I don't know, but minimum wage doesn't grow anything. And usually a lot of minimum wagers don't work full-time, or at least the ones I'm aware of in the golf industry. So with the exception of 300 to 400 of us caddies making a ton of bank and putting it back in the economy, nobody knows anything about, like, Bandon Dunes may as well be the fucking Bat Cave in Coos County, just because it's right there and nobody knows about it. And meanwhile, while we have guests on property, they ask, where should we go to dinner? It's like, honestly, we have enough good restaurants on property that are equally priced or cheaper than things in town. And mind you, we don't pay much for when it comes, like gasoline's expensive in Oregon just because it's the West Coast, but it's like, if you were to go to Bandon, to like the most 5-star restaurant and order the nicest steak they had, you're still probably only paying $40. And it's a nice steak, it's a nice place, but I mean, I've had $120 steaks, and that was a la carte in some cities where it's just like, oh yeah, your drink and your potatoes come separate. So long story boring, I don't have the caddies.
An in-house dentist?
No.
How long does it take you to commute to work?
Well, for me, commuting, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's a nice little drive. It's like 4 3-mile segments that are all equally lengthed. And but I have been joking with some golfers the past couple weeks, just asking each one, I'm like, hey, is there a dentist in the group? And if they say no, I'm like, well, you can just punch me in the side of the head really hard with like Tom Hanks with the ice skate and Castaway. That's one of my favorite movies. I can't watch that scene where he does. Have you seen Castaway?
Nope.
Oh, dog.
2.
Oh, well, I can spoil this part for you because, well, here's the movie. It's a man stranded on an island. Anyways.
Oh, that seems like a good movie. I should watch it.
I remember Martin Short as Jiminy Glick saying years ago, he's just like, I heard Tom Hanks is hard to work with. That's why he couldn't get anyone to cast with Nick Castaway. It's like, I thought that was a funny joke, but there's a part where, like, even before he gets on this plane that crashes in the ocean or whatever, Tom Hanks is at a Christmas dinner with his fiance, and he's complaining about a toothache. And I'm just kind of like, on one hand, when I watched it, going, that's a very old-fashioned problem, but that's also very, oh shit, when you have that, you have to address it. It's debilitating sometimes. So, smash cut to he's stranded on this tropical island, and a few weeks in, like, he can see it's infected. He's got this tooth that's just like terrible, and like of all the stuff that like kind of washes ashore from his wreck, he finds. Because it was a UPS or FedEx flight. Sorry, folks at home. I know it's one of those two specifically. Like he was a courier or a bigwig for one of those companies. But anyways, a couple boxes washed ashore, and one of them was ice skates, which was like an ironic thing for him to find. He's taking inventory, and I love this movie. It's the one part of the movie I can't watch where he proceeds to do self-dentistry on himself, where he takes the ice skate and sticks it up there. I guess up in his mouth, and he has a rock. And he's like going like this, like 1, 2, and he like clink and like knocks the tooth out, and he passes out. I mean, oh my god! I was afraid that like I was gonna look at some golf and be like, take your 9-iron, just and take 2 balls, just hold on, here we go. And
that's what you thought they'd do to you.
That's what I was hoping they do to me.
Get it over with.
Needless to say, I've caddied for too many attorneys lately, or as the quote was on Arrested Development, I got the worst fucking attorneys. So, anyways. Yeah, that's my dentist. I'm proud to say his name. His name is Devin Bryce. Evidently, he bought this gigantic dental practice that has like 16 exam rooms and like multiple dentists there. And when I got to my room, there was a gift box with my name on it, like with a bow and everything. Like this place went above and beyond in terms of like the customer service.
That is a fancy dentist.
They were treating me like the lady, I don't want to call her hygienist, but the assistant, because I didn't do any cleaning or whatever. She like gave me like this piece of paper that said like, did any of these words scare you? And one said fear, one said budget, one said time. And I'm just kind of like, I see what you guys are doing. Look, if it's really expensive, let me know the price, but we just need to pull this tooth out. That's all we need to do. And he said it'd take 30 minutes. It took 5.
Just go for the old rope in the door.
That's what it almost felt like. I swear to God, he had his loafer on my chest at one point, like trying to twist and turn and pull that thing out of there. But the dentist in question who owns the whole place and worked on me, his name's Devin Bryce, and back when I was like 12 or 13 years old, or maybe even younger than that, 11, he was in his mid-teens, and he was Coquille's #1 drummer, percussionist, like he was a musician. Devin Bryce is the man. He was a great drummer, and then I was a freshman, and he was a senior, and we got a new music teacher that he did not like at Coquille High School, so Devin just left. He went to Coos Bay, went to Marshfield to the 4A school, and had a good career there. But when he left, freshman Jerry Lovato became the #1 drummer for Coquille.
Oh, wow. So shout out Jerry Lovato.
Oh, yeah, that's me, yeah. But if it weren't for Devin Bryce, my new dentist and longtime friend, not liking that one teacher and leaving, I probably wouldn't have had a music career for like the next 6 to 7 years. I mean, I would have played backup to his genius and probably just would have like fucked off and not paid attention because I was 14, 15. I'm in my mid 30s now, and I'm just figuring out how to pay attention, for crying out loud. So, but anyways, shout out Above Dentistry, Devin Bryce, my man. Zach, how was your weekend? How you doing?
It was pretty good. We had a long weekend, but the reason for the long weekend is going to be part of the fun fact of the day, so it has to wait. Or we can just get to it now.
Well, we can tease that. We'll tease that for later. We got a lot of things to cover here. First and foremost, we are happy, if we still are, to be a part of Big Heads Podcast Network. Are we still like?
Oh yeah, we haven't been kicked off yet.
We're not like their newest or their hottest anymore, or like even their golfiest baby. I just hope we still have a seat at the table.
We're the only golf podcast.
All right, that's good.
We've got the exclusivity.
I do like hearing that. So, really, before we get into like all the stuff that our staff has been unearthing lately and like things going on in the future here, the one thing I think we need to address, even though we've all heard the story over and over and over, is about Lashley.
Nate Lashley.
Nate, I'm glad you said his first name because I didn't get to watch much golf and I was about to call him Nick, like an idiot. But, I mean, if anyone's already not aware, Zach, can you fill us in on what his backstory is?
Yeah, so Nate Lashley, he's 36 now. Back in 2004, so I guess when he was 21, he was at Ohio State Actually, I don't know. I don't want to say for sure. He was at a tournament in Ohio State.
Actually, he was at a tournament in Crosswater in Oregon.
He was in Oregon.
Of course, I have played before, and until Pronghorn and Bandon Dunes cropped up, Crosswater has often been referred to as one of the most beautiful and definitely the most challenging course, 18 holes, in the state of Oregon.
Yeah, so he was at Ohio State then, and his dad...
I didn't know that. I've read a lot of stories. I didn't know he was a Buckeye.
Yeah, so his dad was a pilot, had like a Cessna plane. They all flew together, him, his dad, his mom, and his girlfriend, to the tournament. And Nate Lashley ended up actually having a great final round to get them into the finals. When it ended,
he shot 2 under in like a super windy day or something. And a lot of people are like, oh, 2 under, that's no big deal. Yeah, but if you see some of these conditions, 2 under is like Charlie Hoffman cranking off a 66 at Augusta on a Friday when nobody else is breaking par.
Yeah, and then he went to go say goodbye to his family, and horrifically, the plane crashed on the way back. His girlfriend, parents both passed away. And,
yeah, I remember reading up how it said like the next morning he didn't hear anything from anybody.
Yeah, it took 3 days for him and his sister to figure it out.
Well, yeah, it was like him and his sister and his coach kind of helped, but like it wasn't that like it finally dawned on somebody, but somebody finally contacted the FAA because small private single prop plane with 3 people in it, if it takes off and doesn't land anywhere, that's not exactly gonna, no pun intended, pop up on any radar, so to speak, from like air traffic control per se or FAA or whatever. It's kind of like a very old-fashioned nuance of like losing ships at sea, where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you had to be gone a long time and somebody had to mention it for us to be like, oh, I guess they didn't come back. I mean, it's just 3 people in the smallest of private planes you could operate. So I mean,
yeah.
And then they found them. I forget what it was, near some peak. I forget where in was it Wyoming or something?
I think they hit trouble in Wyoming, so I'm not sure exactly where it ended, but
I just remember, because I don't want to harp on, and I definitely don't research the bad news too much, obviously. But like they found all 3 bodies. Like as soon as they found the wreck, like they found everybody.
Yeah.
So it could be a lot worse. I mean, did you hear about like? And this is kind of half eerie. Payne Stewart's plane crash. Remember how he won the 1999 U.S. Open, and before he could defend, I forget the month, but it had to be obviously between the 99 and 2000 U.S. Open. So summer to summer of 99 to 2000, Payne Stewart was involved in a plane crash. He was going to help like break ground or design a course or look at something or whatever, and I remember like they just lost contact with the private plane. It was just flying up there, sitting up there. They dispatched some fighter planes to go look, and they said like and they even reported back saying looks like everyone's sleeping inside the plane, and like they saw like frost on the inside of the windows, which means like the plane's on autopilot. He had some depressurization for God forbid, some whatever reason. And then it's kind of like that old-fashioned going to sleep in the garage with the car on. Can't do that in the 21st century anymore, but it's kind of like everyone just kind of went to sleep in the plane. So these poor fighter pilots had to consider shooting it down just in case it didn't, went over a major city or something, and ran out of fuel, who knows. But when it wound up crashing, there was nothing to recover. All they recovered from the crash, I remember they recovered 2 parts. There was 2 crew members and at least 2 other people on the plane, including Payne Stewart. They found Payne Stewart's left hand, and I think they found somebody's shoe, and that was it in terms of identifiable materials, both organic and non-organic, just to prove, like, there was just a big black circle. And part of me is just like, how do you find a left hand perfectly intact? I mean, that's a bizarro physical thing, whatever, but I mean, it's just, like, the plane crash is just, it's a tragedy, and it's not even, whether it's from John F. Kennedy Jr. or Roy Halladay, whether it's people flying in bad weather or under bad schedules or under the influence of certain things or whatever, it's definitely a first world problem, Zach. I've seen it when I joke around with golfers, like when they come into Bandon Dunes. It's just like, what's the easiest way to get in here? It's like, well, you don't want to fly into North Bend because planes rarely make it in there, and they're small. You have to make connections. It's foggy, and you still have to rent a car and drive 45 minutes. You may as well fly into Medford or Eugene because you're going to drive 2 hours from there, or fly into Portland, one of the biggest, best international airports America has to offer, and rent a car. It's just, there's all these things. And then I always tell golfers, or you can just get your own private jet and fly into Bandon, because I have caddied for a lot of guys who just came in for the day, and they were talking about going to get barbecue in San Antonio for dinner. Like, some people just ball like that. I know it's really expensive, but that's kind of, in my opinion, that's the way to travel. I mean, that's why half the celebrities we know, like big movie stars, a lot of them have their pilot's license. I mean, look at John Travolta. That guy owned 747s in his front yard until, like, his son Jet committed suicide or something. I don't know. I'm combining, like, 3 stories. So, anyways, Nate Lashley, it's a really, really wonderful story. He didn't seem to wane at all, despite a tournament that paid a lot of attention to Cameron Champion, posting that 28, and then he, like, a lot of cameras seemed to be on him, which was fine. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I didn't mind it, where it's just like, yeah, of course the guy who was on, like, 26 watch for the front nine, I'd be yelling in the booth too, get all the cameras on him. So what did you think of the tournament? Did you catch any of it?
Yeah, so I actually caught a good bit of it. And one last thing on Nate Lashley, he won the Corrales Punta Cana on, like, the web.com a couple years ago to get his exemption on the PGA, and even then he didn't really talk about his parents or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, you want to talk about, like, the most of, like, humility or humble. That guy's got it. I think I heard the No Laying Up guys say this when I listened to their recap. Yeah, shout out. I listen to No Laying Up. It's the only golf podcast I listen to. They were talking about how he was, like, a double exempter for this, where he had to, like he qualified in the Pro-Am and made it into this tournament as an alternate. Like,
oh yeah, he was the last person in, person in, last person out, which is a good way to put it.
But I find that very, very, very odd, because he's been trending in score. Like, his name has been appearing a lot lately. So if you were to pick him for this tournament, honestly, like, on Wednesday, if you were to say, like, hey, I like Lashley for this tournament, I'd probably go, yeah, that's actually that's a right down the middle, that's a single base hit. I like it. Yeah,
a lot has to do with the recency of his performances. I guess it doesn't come up right away in the points. So next year he should, well, obviously now he's golden, but...
Well, 2 words, everybody. Chez Reavie. I mean, that guy, ever since the Sony Open, I was talking about him a little bit, going like, why is Chez Reavie all of a sudden taking top 10 in every single tournament he's playing in? Then he storms up in the U.S. Open. Then he wins. I mean, it's just... I don't want to... The thing that makes me laugh about Chez Reavie is one of the first interviews I heard with Club Pro Guy before he had his own podcast, and really when he was getting his ground, before he started going to shows and everything. He said something to the degree of, like, because... his dry irony of the sport is what I like, where he just talks about, like, look, guys, Tabasco shirts, they don't sell themselves. You got to push them. And those individual iron head covers, that those are hot in the wintertime on a discount for Christmas, but you got to really push them hard in June. And the stroke bead counters, like, he thinks of all this old, weird, nerdy golf shit that's super funny. And he kind of tied that into a line once where he said, like, listen, guys, we need the young guns to come up, there's one day Len Matisse, Chez Reavie, these guys are going to grow up, we need new young guns. It's like, Len Matisse and Chez Reavie. He picked the 2 most average, know-nothing, until this year for Reavie, the most average, no-name nobodies ever, and said, like, the game needs more of these guys. And I remember distinctly, he said, where are your Chez Reavies? We need those. And this is before he did anything. Anywho, is there and I guess that so what's the official name of the tournament that Lashley won?
The Rocket Mortgage Classic.
Yeah, but somebody was saying it's the PMI Classic, and they only said that because it's making us look it up. Anyways, maybe I'm jumping the shark into next year's tournament, so to speak. But what before we get on to our recent interviews, which we got to break down some behind the scenes stuff with Peter Kessler, Mike Whelan's coming up. We had Scott Van Pelt of ESPN.
That was wild.
I wanted to tweet Scott this, but I know he wouldn't have gotten back to me. Whatever. But I met Scott about 13 years ago at a Bowie Bay Sox AA baseball game in Bowie, Maryland, and that's the AA affiliate of the Orioles. And he's from Maryland. He's a big Maryland guy. I remember I loved Scott Van Pelt, and when I met him in person, I was like, I just remember looking up like, you're 6'5". He's a big dude. He's a tall dude. I mean, and he looks like Chandler Bing from Friends, but without hair. That's just my
good fair.
But anyways, this new tournament coming up, I asked you something about it in the pre-show runner, and unfortunately we didn't get to cover it too much. I mostly just explained to you what the brand 3M was, but, and that this is going to be played. This next tournament is going to be played at the TPC of the Twin Cities, and I know that's not in Phoenix. So that being said, shucks. I mean, I didn't want to get on my phone during the pod or whatever, but we got any big names headlining this field? I mean, we got anything?
Yeah, so there's some pretty big names. We got Brooks Koepka is in it, Matsuyama, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland.
That's so adorable. I know those 4 names distinctly. Brooks, cool. Hideki, easy now, big names. I know he's your favorite, but I mean, he's been a little stale lately. We need to see him. We need to see Hideki get back to Hideki status. and then wait, what was the? I know you said Hovland is the 4th name, but who's the 3rd name?
Tony Finau.
Tony Finau. I have a serious beef with Tony Finau all of a sudden. Where did he go?
Yeah.
Where did he go? Like, Golf Guy just broke down his swing in a big piece, like, prior to the Masters. Then he kind of fudged around the Masters. Then he's gone.
He'll be
like,
back when the majors come around.
No, man. The second we figured out a thing or two about his golf swing, I'm just like, oh, so Tony Finau's a golfer who never hits it out to one side of the fairway or the other. And it's interesting. Ever since I finally found this out, can't find him. Can't find him anywhere on TV. Can't find him on a leaderboard. And I know my dad doesn't listen, but Tony Finau is like my dad's favorite golfer, so I love giving him crap for it. So it's like, oh, where's Tony the Finau now? I mean,
yeah, we also have Jason Day, Phil Mickelson, Bryson, Patrick Reed.
Oh, sorry. Now you're getting to some meaty names. The one thing I wanted to I was going to bust your balls about was who was I just talking about again? Because I'm thinking about
Victor Hovland.
Well, the fact that you compared him, like he was in the list where it's just kind of like, oh, some of these guys, wait, that's a big name? Okay, cool. And then you said Victor Hovland, like, whoa, now I consider that a big name, even though he's not. He is not a big name
whatsoever. He's the up-and-comer.
Yeah, but I don't... This might sound like I'm saying he's not or whatever, but is he? Like, I like Victor Hovland as much as I like, well, Cam Champ, or even like Aaron Wise. If you look at some of these guys' games or whatever... Matt Wolf to a certain extent.
Matt Wolf, love that guy.
Cam Champ, Victor Hovland, Matt Wolf, and those three in that order are like a certain age of young gun guys that I'm paying attention to where I'm just like, holy crap. Those three in a row are amazing golfers, and I don't know, it obviously can get better, but I don't know how it can.
There's another name, Colin Morikawa. He's been like lighting it up since he got on tour.
Who?
Colin Morikawa. Another young gun. And then there's I think the last one's Justin Sue. He was like the number 4 ranked amateur.
Yeah, I've seen his name here or there. God, Victor Hovland. He right after he won the amateur, I was really looking at his swing. You want to talk about like just like cracking the whip, pulling back for power.
Oh yeah, you see those videos of him double pumping it?
Well, I didn't go. I did see the double pump, and I didn't go very apeshit about that because I was kind of looking at going like, well, look at Matt Wolf and how we like to break down his little like pre-swing trigger or whatever. Part of me's like, well, if you make a swing, couldn't a double pump be your timing trigger, so to speak? I mean, I know in some parts of my swing, if I actually like turn a certain way or look a certain way, that gets my timing and my coil proper. When he did the double pump, all I said out loud was, I haven't seen that before. But then my second thought was, that's not insane. Like, these young guys, I've seen a lot of these collegiate golfers. I used to make fun of this old pitcher for the New York Mets. His name was Turk. And he used to play golf righty, but with a lefty grip. Like, he played left hand, and he was a shitty golfer. He was like 25 handicap or whatever. But then now I saw 2 collegiate golfers now where one has a left hand low grip, full swing.
Okay.
And the other has almost... What's up?
No, I was just responding to you.
I was reading your eyes at the same time, like, oh, do we have technical difficulties over there? But so anyways, we got this one kid who has a lefty grip on a righty swing, and then we have another guy who has almost like the prayer grip. You know what the prayer grip is, right?
It's like when you have your fans like this, sort of.
It's a putting stroke grip.
That's.
Grip.
How could you swing like that?
I don't know, because it looked like his hands were barely together. Then all of a sudden, right when he took the club back, that was when slightly some grip occurred, but it looked like it was so loose, like you'd sneeze and you could fling the club out of his hand, like from afar, like you're ready to tee off and you just cough, and all of a sudden he drops it, just because it was like holding the bird, like the Harry Barton tip, to a tee, where it's just like, this guy is holding this box, this golf club like a box of Kleenex upside down with his wrong hand. Like, he's being so ginger with it. And then I watched his swing, I'm like, well, it reminds me of a 19-year-old Sergio Garcia, where he had an incredible wrist lag in his swing. Easy to do, kind of fun, but not something you can fundamentally repeat in a good golf swing or score. So, I don't know. Like, Victor Hovland, to me, might be the most vanilla out of all these, like, young guns or whatever, just because he's just the biggest, he's the stallion with the best muscles, really. Where, like, I remember watching his swing in the final round of the U.S. Amateur. I stopped and said, who is this? He is taking the driver back like he has a broadsword and he's trying to swing down on a dragon's neck. I mean, it is, and it's not like Arnold Palmer, because Arnold Palmer, I golf like Arnold Palmer, where after the ball hits my club face, I go berserk. Like, I'm like Ho-Sung Choi meets Arnold Palmer, where, like, I have no distinct follow-through. Like, I'll hit the ball and I'll start following.
That was a good throwback to Ho-Sung Choi.
Yeah, where did he go?
Disappeared.
I make sure he lives on every round I play. Like, I can't hit a tee shot and sit still. Like either I'll pick up my tee and go back to the cart, or I'll hit it and like I'll start like looking at it going like, oh look, it's going right. Oh no, but that's going right. I mean, just I don't know. So those are the big names for the. So it's called the 3M.
The 3M Open. It's a brand new event out in Minnesota.
So this isn't. I mean, this has to be taking the place of something, right? Or did they move a venue and switch a sponsor name, or what? I mean, this is in the middle of the golf season. So
they must have done that.
Last year there wasn't a tournament this weekend.
Yeah, there couldn't have not been a tournament though. But from what I see, it shows there's a new tournament not taking over anything. But I'm sure I'm wrong, so someone will correct me. But.
Well, they could. You know what? We wish more of you would correct us because nobody talks to us. You know, reach out to us on Twitter. Talk to us. We're a good time. I have a theory, though. Maybe perhaps moving the PGA Championship up. And, like, not saying the PGA Championship should be right now. I mean, the British Open could be almost... No, the British Open's still the same time it's always been. I'm trying to think, like, maybe because they shuffled everything up, there would be that one weekend that's open where it's just like, well, it's not going to be the Reno or Tahoe Open. I mean... where Scott Stallings goes and wins every year or whatever, but I mean...
Who knows? We'll never know. Unless someone talks to us, we'll never know.
3M Open, I like that. I like it anytime a tournament that's not a major calls themselves an Open. Like the old... Like when Buick used to have the Buick Open, the Buick Invitational, the Buick Classic, and nobody drove a Buick. But I was like, hey, we have a theme here amongst regular golf tournaments, not majors.
As long as it's an Open.
So long as it is open, which I quote Kevin Costner from Tin Cup when he said, that means it's open. It's open to everybody. It's democratic. Anywho, is there anything else you want to talk about current golf tournament-wise before we get into what we've been doing and what's coming up for our crew and our team and our website?
Well, yeah, it's been a pretty quiet week golf tournament-wise besides the Lashley win. So we'll move on to.
So I want to get to it before we get to some other stuff that's probably more important. But your Kip Henley interview last week. On one hand, I was really bummed I couldn't finagle a way to get in on the call. But as I've told you via text and some people that I've chatted with privately, but more so opening this up to the public, I've followed and loved Kip Henley for years, still do, and I'm kind of glad I wasn't a part of that interview just because I really feel like I would have muffed it up somehow, just like goofing off, or even though it could have been genuine and candid or whatever. It's like, no, we got Kip Henley on. Let's get some Kip Henley dirt. I mean, and for those of you who don't know, I mean, if you didn't listen to the podcast, Kip Henley is not the most seasoned PGA Tour veteran. PGA Tour caddy veteran. But in terms of social media exposure and knowing names of names, he is the biggest caddy currently. Like,
he's been around a long time, though. He caddied for VJ.
Let me put it this way. If Twitter existed back in 2000, Fluff would have been the biggest Twitter presence or something probably, right? I mean, we have one of our outside service guys at Bandon Dunes. His nickname is Shoe. I don't know his real name, but he works there 5 days a week, and he takes pictures. He has his own weather gauging system. Like, he's pretty big on social media as Shoe, and I remember, and I'm friends with Shoe. Shoe and I are great pals. But I remember back in the day, before he became a little celebrity mascot, everyone hated Shoe. He was just a shitty little old man that we didn't like. It's like, oh yeah, there's Shoe trying to be friends with everybody, and nobody liked him or whatever. Now he's kind of grown into his own, what have you. And that being said, and it's not a direct comparison, but it's like Kip Henley, and he'll be the first to say he's not the biggest name out there. He hasn't worked the longest out there. Like, if you want to talk about like guys who've been caddying on tour for 30 years, I guarantee you those guys are not on Twitter. Those guys probably still read newspapers and still get their hair cut 4 times a year on the same dates at the same guy. Just the way it goes. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, and I probably would have asked. That's why I can't wait for us to like maybe get Kip back on the show for a part 2 where I can get a little personal with him, because I know a bit about him personally that isn't necessarily controversial, but and as he would describe it, he's a man who sticks to very good principles and sticks to his guns no matter what. That being said, and I'm not gonna claim this. I'm not gonna say anything because I am not an expert in this. But in certain overtones, I've seen people give Kip Henley kind of the racism treatment, where it's just like, I've seen more than one person give him the whole, like, you're just some good old boy from the South. Of course you think this, and of course you hate that, and of course this or whatever. And you know what? Maybe he does. But that's not the point. I know tons of racists in my life. The funny thing is, they don't say they're racist, and you probably don't know they're racist, but guess what? There are a bunch of racist people walking around out there. The true racists don't advertise it. that's how they get in amongst, like, that's how they
This
get
is
their
true.
foothold in. It's scary. It's a scary, disgusting thing for something that, like, on one hand, I look at it like, oh, well, I know I'm not racist, so therefore I don't advertise anything. But it's like, well, don't I make myself a prime candidate? And I'm not. This is not whatsoever. I love Kip Henley. I would never ever call him as what I would call the R word. I'll say retarded. Like, not saying he's retarded. I'll say that as an R word. But my R word is racist because I'm tired of us making that a thing.
It's not nice to say retarded unless your friend's acting retarded.
I've heard that. I forget who said that, but I've heard that before.
Michael
Who
Scott.
said that? Michael. That's right. Yeah. He's like, no, you don't make fun of retards. That's bad taste.
Yeah.
Words.
It's in bad taste.
Make fun of your friends for being retarded, okay? And he kind of looked at the camera like, duh. Oh, man, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking, oh, stand-up comic said that. It's like, nope, it was better. It was Michael Scott. But Kipper, oh, that was so great. When you asked him my question at the end, like, I was first of all, I was sitting on the shitter. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I was listening to the podcast. And I remember as he was answering questions, I was texting you saying, hey, damn it, you messed this up. Hey, you didn't say this. And you're texting back saying, calm down. There's more to the show.
Yeah, you gotta wait.
And sure enough, I mean, you have no idea, like, how thrilled I was that you got to ask him that question. But hearing his reaction, because I've always, as I told you, I'm a bad interviewer, but I always want us to have our own personal thumbprint or fingerprint, our own stamp on an interview. Like,
sure.
Like the No Laying Up guys ask everyone at the end of their interviews, when's the last time you paid for golf? That's a great question. That can elicit a ton of different stories and answers. And mostly what you want to do, and this is the little bit I know as an interviewer, and I'm not one, is ask them a question that just makes them think for a second. Even if they don't say anything for the first 3 seconds, that's how you know you got a good one. And my question really wasn't that. I know how you and him said it was deep or whatever, but I'm just like, it's not that deep. It's revealing. And really, I would say, like, and he answered the question perfectly. He said, like, well, I want to say my father, but I can't. And then I tweeted him saying, like, of course you can say your father, Kip. You can be your father's fan club president. Why not? That's a perfect answer. But then when he said he was a president of the Henley family fan club, I'm like, I hate to say it, that was a very unsensational answer, because I kind of had a half idea knowing he would say that, because I know Kip Henley is a delicious family man in that regard. He's perfect. He's that's what makes him as red-blooded and as American as anything else, is he supports, like, good stuff, like, or goodness around him, and promoting, like, like fruitful things, and especially his family. So I mean, that was probably the weakest answer he could have gave in terms of learning stuff or, like, figuring things out or whatever. But I mean, when you asked him that question, I heard him go, wow. I lost my mind, because I'm like, this wasn't supposed to make him think or, like, stump him or whatever, and I kind of did. I mean,
It's a good question.
Well, now, anyone out there who's listening, God forbid, if you're going to be interviewed by us, that'll be one of the last questions is, if you could be the president of a fan club, who would it be?
Now you know.
It's simple as that. It's super revealing, because we all get to learn something, and you get to think for a second when you get asked the question. And not that this sounds like a bad thing, but as I told Zach before, this is how you get Bill Belichick to talk: is you gotta ask somebody something they're interested in, but you don't know exactly what they're interested in. So why not give them the most open-ended sentence that makes them hone in on a target? And when they hone in on that target, it speaks more than just the words they're saying. So, and also, when you mentioned that I worked at, you almost said Brandon Dunes again. I love it.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, you did.
I'll have to re-listen.
You got the bruh, and then you paused and said Bandon Dunes, and then he said, like, oh, beautiful. I mean, I don't know if Kip's ever been out to the Oregon coast like that, but it makes me want to, like, make a phony course on Tiger Woods or, like, a Twitter account and call it Brandon Dunes.
Brandon Dunes Golf Course.
That's gonna be my alter ego. I was just telling my girlfriend earlier how, like, anytime I'm at work and, like, if I'm ever shitty with, like, a guest or something, or not saying that happens or whatever, but I have this air of, when I worked at the airport in Aspen, I wrote my employee number on the back of my jersey, or, like, my orange, reflective jumper, just so if anyone had a problem, I just turn around and be like, 3792, call my boss, lodge a complaint. I'm just like, yeah, here's my badge number, asshole, come get me. And if it's warranted, yeah, maybe they'll come get me. but I have a caddy alter alias, so to speak, or an alter, not alter ego, but an alias rather. There's no such thing as an alter alias. That's a redundancy. But anytime, if I were to upset anybody on the resort and they say, "What's your name?" and I say, "Richard Shaw." Rick Shaw.
Then they know who to come after. You're the rickshaw man.
Yeah, well, I want them to sit there and go like, oh yeah, that guy really pissed me off. His name's Richard Shaw. I'm going to talk to his boss, and just somebody nearby is going like, Richard Shaw? You mean his name's Rick Shaw? And then they sit there and go, oh, that little fucker.
Now we know why Rick Shaw has the most complaints at Bandon Dunes, eh?
He's not worth the money, but now I should make another alter ego called Brandon Dunes.
Brandon. You should tell people that when they ask your name. That would be great.
Well, we got for years because Looper is written on a lot of our gear, and my last name starts with an L. A lot of people would assume Looper was my last name. We actually had back in the day a few caddies. Their nicknames, like there's Blue Jay and Crazy and Sheepdog and Squid.
Crazy's a terrible nickname.
F you. Crazy's my favorite caddy.
That is a terrible nickname.
Know his real name. Oh, those are fighting words, buddy.
That sounds so mean.
No, his name's Crazy, and as he'll look at you through his sunglasses, because I've never seen his eyeballs before. I've always seen him with sunglasses on. He's we had a guy back in the day when I worked there 20 years ago called the Unabomber. Tim, his name was Tim, and his nickname. He called himself the Unabomber because every single time like you saw him or whatever in his uniform, he always had a hoodie on and like aviator glasses and just kind of like scruffy or whatever. He looked like Ted Kaczynski a little bit. I mean, and that was his marketing. That was on his business cards. It's like next time you're at Bandon Dunes, ask for the Unabomber. Weird, but it works. I mean,
in 2019, that might not go over so well.
Dude, in 2019, I don't think we haven't had. I hate.
You might not be allowed to have Crazy as a nickname in 2019.
He is moving. He is. I heard. Unfortunately, I think Crazy is moving to Houston to further his golf head cover business, which I certainly don't mind promoting. Everybody, it's called Gorse Golf, Gorse Golf. He makes head covers in a day and age where, thank you Akbar for making Seamus Golf, and now we have to pay $120 for a head cover now. That's like
I hope Crazy listens to this pod if we're giving him all this advertisement.
No, Crazy knows I support him and pump him up as much as I can. I got a hat of his from his company. I've worn it on this podcast a few times, but he actually, I haven't seen him in a couple weeks, but he's been saying like, "Hey Jerry, where's your card? What's your website? Give me some stickers." And I literally haven't seen Crazy in like 3 weeks. It's breaking my heart. I mean,
shout out Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's Gorse.
So oh yeah, I'm sorry. Their company's called Gorse Golf. I'm pretty sure that's the website, just www.gorsegolf.com. And yeah, I'm not even a head cover guy, but he has so many good head covers there that I haven't bought any yet because I can't freaking decide. And many of our caddies carry them, and yeah, it's just it's just as any well, we all know how the gourmet boutique head cover market is these days, and he's just one of them. Except he sells his for like $50 a pop as opposed to $100. So
yeah, sounds like a good site. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you find something you like, let me know, because he keeps encouraging me to use a promo code for a discount, and I'll figure it out for us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we do have a caddy discount code where we, like, save 50% off his product. And that makes me feel bad, too, going like, Crazy, I want to buy 5 head covers. I mean, so let's, a couple more things to break down here before we get to the Canadian fun fact.
Oh, one thing I'll point out before we move on from Kip Henley. I went in knowing he was definitely like a very funny guy, and that I'm like the last person to ever like judge someone on how they talk, because I'm all for not being politically correct and all that. But one thing that really stood out, not just him not being politically correct, he does seem like an excellent person. Like, he's helping the community. He was the happiest thing he was when I brought up his charity, and he was so like grateful to have brought that up. And he's like, that was like the most important thing to him, to be talking about the St. Jude charity.
I think if I were to sum up Kip Henley in one word that I think describes him in a positive, and maybe this can be taken slightly misconstrued in a slight negative way, but really it can't. Kip Henley is one of the most wholesome people I could ever imagine.
That's a good way to describe it.
He is very genuine, and maybe a couple times that genuineness or whatever might be on the wrong subject or directed at the wrong person per se. I'm not even going to claim to say I have screenshots of Kip Henley's tweets where he's effed up or whatever. His grammar and his punctuation is just as bad on Twitter as the rest of ours. So what standard are we really holding each other to? I mean, with the exception of how I did see how Brandel Chambly was saying something. And who is Jeff Martin?
I feel like I've seen that name.
At Jeffy Golf. He's that guy who is Twitter avatar. He looks like Larry David from Seinfeld, but with like tiny little black sunglasses on.
Okay.
This guy. Okay, look him up at Jeffy Golf. Jeffy Golf. No, I'm not even telling you to look him up, Zach. Follow his ass. Because every single time, you think Peter Kessler was crazy in terms of like knowing a ton of stuff and correcting you, but then Jeffy won't
follows us. Jeffy Golf.
What's that?
Jeffy Golf follows us.
He does?
Yeah, what a life.
Oh, great. I mean, he and I talk on a semi-regular basis on Twitter, but he doesn't know who I am. Like, anyways, he brought up something recently or Brandel Chambly was talking about something, and oh God, this is gonna kill me. I wish I had the tweet ready, but he was talking about players with amount of cuts made, and he brought up Charles Howell III out of a vacuum. Jeff Martin did, and which got my attention because Charles Howell III is secretly maybe my favorite golfer of all time. And he said that Tiger Woods made Charles Howell III has made 422 cuts in his career. Tiger has made 324 cuts in his career. Tiger plays limited schedule, whatever. Jack Nicklaus and Phil Mickelson have made over 500 cuts apiece in their career. Cool. But that I tweeted Jeff Martin this little piece, what I'm about to say here, and normally Jeff's smart enough that he'll add something onto what you say or he'll correct you or whatever. But he just liked my tweet and didn't say anything, which made me think like, oh my God, I think Albert Einstein just said good point, so to speak, to me, because my tweet essentially said, for lack of a better term, I said, I've always been advocating Charles Howell III is the best golfer without a major because he makes so many cuts. He plays twice as much golf as everyone else. And at 422 cuts made in a 20-year career, he makes 21-plus cuts a season.
Yeah.
Does he have kids? Does he have a house with a dog? Is he ever there? I mean, that's the only thing I look at where it's like, yeah, you could be a grinder on tour all you want to, but you have to have a personal life too. I mean, and he is, I know he's a family man. He seems like he'd be very Catholic or Mormon for all I know. He seems like a very straight-laced dude. Anyways, here. That's, at Jeffy Golf, that guy, like we see Brandel Chambly correct people and Peter Kessler correct people, and then they'll get in arguments and then the point gets lost. I'll at least say this much. When Jeff Martin speaks, everyone at least seems to listen or not argue. Like, he brings up, if you look at his Twitter background picture, it's like some graph chart of some shit that I don't know. It's like about driving distance on tour the past 50 years. It's like, I don't know who this guy is or what he does, but he might be, and I'll claim it, the greatest database in golf or resource or whatever. I mean, that's what made Peter Kessler great. You know, he was a historian. That's what makes me think I'm great at golf, is because for a certain period of time or years, I know a lot about golf.
You do know a lot about golf. I give you that.
But I mean, at the same time, I'm not going to have arrogance about it like PK or some other people, you know. But speaking of the new fallout from this PK piece, granted it's been quiet on his front. Your neck seems to be on piece. We haven't had any international customs or tribunal lawyers.
No, I think he realized he needed to make peace because his strategy to try and sue us would never have gone well. So he was like almost apologetic without being apologetic.
Whoa, wait, is this new news? Like,
no, just like
proof of him being apologetic, because I was about to say that's not Peter Kessler.
Oh no, he was never apologetic.
The fact that he stopped talking about this either makes me think that he finally slipped in the tub, or that we are just the 8-month digestion that he has of like being friends with somebody and attacking somebody.
Oh no, he was never apologetic, but he went from like, I'm gonna cut your head off and like kill you to I did not like the article you posted. So
I would say, in terms of his development, that's an improvement, because like he should have just said, "I'll cut your head off," and that should have been the last thing he said to us. Really,
that's why it's like almost an apology that now he's just like, "I did not like that."
Like you know what I'm actually starting to enjoy from this, because as you know from me, I've never liked this Peter Kessler business from minute one when Tucker said, "Hey, we got Peter Kessler's my new friend." I was already biting my nails, going, "This is not good," but we're starting to connect with some people out there on Twitter and the social media universe, in that like they're getting the same ire from Peter Kessler for no reason. And even those people who are supporting him, I actually am jumping on with Tucker at that one guy who's like Wall Street Pete and Golf Gods, those two idiots or whatever.
Yeah,
like
they're dead to me.
First of all, this Wall Street Pete idiot, we can't attack him. If you look at his timeline, every hour he's just poking at something with some semi-sarcastic, like, wistful, thoughtful
I think it's
crap.
Peter Kessler. Not even kidding. I think there's a pretty good chance it's him.
No. Oh, I like where your head's at, but we all know Peter Kessler's head is the size of 2 hot air balloons.
That he'd be like, this is Peter Kessler.
Oh, I wish that was Peter Kessler. I wish your notion was right. I strongly feel like somebody, as Peter Kessler isn't egotistical. It's megalomaniacal.
It's like psychopathic.
You know what? I'm sorry because I hate to bash I'm going to use these words, the ruler of our country right now, because as I tell people, hey, all of us Americans, or at least 99.999% of us, are sleeping comfortably every night, regardless of who our president is.
That is true.
But, my God, 45 and PK act a lot fucking alike, and we've pretty much diagnosed Donald Trump and a lot of his problems. They're written right up on the wall. Peter Kessler, I think one of the big things is like, yeah, he was amazing. For 15, 20 years, he was, as they would say for Ron Burgundy, the balls. And guess what? He's been unemployed and unreachable this century. There's more than just a little problem there. I mean, if you're good, you keep on getting good or doing good or whatever. If you disappear from the public eye, it's like Sean Penn or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, he went down.
Whatever happened to Sean Penn?
He's such an artistic genius. That's just how it goes for those guys. I mean, look, what happened to Jim Carrey? He's making artwork now, political artwork.
Oh, it's true. These are real throwbacks.
So Tucker and the PK piece, it's getting quiet on that front. We now, it sounds like Tucker, he in the process of getting Mike Whelan, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, because this is how I describe Mike Whelan to everybody out there, is he is the, I don't want to say creator of Golf Channel, but he's the original executive producer.
Yeah, he's one of like the first guys there.
Oh, but yeah, be careful, because we could say PK was one of the first guys there. And you know what? One of the great things I liked about learning from the PK piece was the reason why Peter Kessler had so much control early on was he was working with a bunch of idiots who like barely knew where the craft service table was. So Peter was essentially like, okay, I'll direct this. I'll pick the interviews. I'll script it. And thank God Peter was good enough to do that. I mean, that's why when it comes to professionally, God bless Peter Kessler. He's dead to me literally in a theatrical or like a media sense, because it's like, yeah, you haven't been on TV since Tiger Woods.
I love Peter Kessler. I hope I could run into him one day. I feel like I would have a great time. Cause I'm so like, I lack so much like hatred towards people, and I strive in awkward situations. So I feel like I would just like, oh hey Pete, how's it going?
I get that, and not like we're trying to push the emotional bar one way or the other, but honestly, I have so much disgust and disdain for people who are like, I was watching Friends earlier with my girlfriend, and Monica was acting stupid, and I just looked at her and said, like, please tell me human beings don't act like this. I mean, it's just like, no. Like, because if I ever see that person on the street, I would openly insult them to their face, because I'd be like, no, you're the reason why we make fun of each other, or you're the reason why we have food stamps, or you're the reason why anything is wrong because you're immature.
At the same time, only one of us brought back their tooth from the dentist.
Hey, listen, every time I go to the doctor, or, hey, I appreciate you calling that a savage move. I just want to take a picture of the sucker, and she said, you can have it. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll take that. I'm probably throwing it away after tonight, but I mean, there's that speaks to nothing.
Incredible.
So, but anyways, so we got Tucker while he's securing this interview with Mike Whelan.
So Mike's going to be a long article, sort of like a Peter Kessler thing, and an interview, but...
Well, I remember seeing on Twitter, Mike was saying, and this is on Twitter, everyone can see it, he hasn't conducted a, quote, radio, that shows how long it's been, radio interview in 20 years. So, however we get him, we got him, that's great. And then also, this led to, one of these past couple mornings or whatever, you and I got a message from Tucker saying, call me, it's important. And I waited for 5 minutes, and I texted you, and I sat there going, like, I was like, should I call him or should you? And I sat there going, like, no, this is important, whatever it is. Like, I mean, it's not a bad thing. And I'm sitting there going, like, well, should I wait for Zach to respond? He's probably talking to me right now. Fuck it. I'm going to call Tucker. Even though, as I told you earlier, I cede everything to you in terms of control, quote, power, just everything. I tend to look at it as, like, you have more gravitas in this, so I'll side with your brain and your judgment better. But this one time, I just was like, all right, let me call Tucker and just see what the hell's going on. Maybe I can put this
we're a team.
Out,
we do.
I have no idea. And he tells me right away, he's just like, oh, yeah, we're getting Scott Van Pelt. Like, he heard about the Mike Whelan stuff, and he was a part of, like, some Golf Channel stuff early on in the day. We're getting Scott Van Pelt. So I was like, this is worth the phone call. That's great. That's great. Scott Van Pelt, amazing. And then as like a couple minutes in the conversation, he even asked me. I think Tucker asked me. He's like, "Oh, is that okay or whatever?" I was like, "Oh, first of all, I'm gonna say it's not up to me, but second of all, hell yeah, it's okay. Get in touch with Zach as soon as possible." And when I said that, he's like, "Oh, Zach's calling me right now." I'm like, "Good, I'll get off the phone and you guys talk." Because when it came down to that, I didn't need to be a part of the conversation. I'm happy he included me, and I found out we got Scott. And that was, I'll admit, you listened to Scott Van Pelt interview.
Yeah.
It was exactly Scott Van Pelt. It was right down the middle of the road. I really, really appreciated the parts where he said he refused to speak on a couple things because I know for a fact. Well, no, I'm sorry. This is conjecture. But I'm a pretty good bartender, psychologist, armchair, whatever. And that the only time somebody ever does that is when they don't want to drag someone's name through the mud. That's it. It's like, what if we found out this whole time Warren Buffett was a huge racist? Well, that's not going to come out till way later, and all the people who work around him are definitely going to be like, no, you know what? Warren was a great boss, and I'm not going to say anything else at this time. Because according to that interview with Scott Van Pelt, Peter Kessler kind of helped, I wouldn't say helped him along, but he was sitting next to him when Mike Whelan was sitting there going, who's that bald kid sitting there with the glasses? Filling in for, pretending to be Peter Alist, pretending to be Arnold Palmer, like essentially goofing off and doing impersonations and whatever. And he got to, like, next thing you know, he was like the stand-in, the fill-in. And granted, if anyone wants to know anything extra, you'll have to contact Tucker at, how do you find him on Twitter? What's
at Tucker Dale Booth.
Dale, okay, I didn't want to say D. At Tucker Dale Booth. Tucker did have, and he shared this a little bit with us in private conversation. I'm not saying too much here, but Scott didn't really say too much off the air, but he did enlighten on a couple things. It wasn't really groundbreaking, wasn't anything like that. It's just, and I'm not gonna say anything to incriminate Scott Van Pelt because he didn't do it on purpose himself, but he said a couple things about our article that he didn't want to agree or disagree with on the air, but he said it off the air, and it was very concise, cool. It was very much like, thank you. We got some insight, and if you want to know what Scott Van Pelt said, I suggest you hit up Tucker if Tucker's willing to share it with you. But it's good stuff. It's not bad. I mean, it's not bad for anybody.
Yeah, people could probably assume.
I feel like Scott Van Pelt could have been like our first interview on this whole Peter Kessler thing, just given how little he gave us and how respectful he was. But like getting it on the end now feels like this is all just validation, really. I mean, in terms of just like, I wouldn't, I'm not saying PK gave SVP his start, but he was kind of a part of it. And Scott is very appreciative of where he's at right now professionally, and he knows where his bread's buttered, and that's what makes him a great professional. I mean, he could have said completely the opposite stuff that our piece said, and I'd be like, well, we're learning something today. From one view or another, we just are. So
it is awesome to see someone so like humble. He went on to thank like Mike Whelan on Twitter responding to us. For comparison, Mike Whelan, he has a private Twitter account, but he has like 100 Twitter followers compared to Scott Van Pelt, who I think has 1.9 million.
Oh yeah. I guess Mike Whelan evidently has been following me on Twitter for some time now, and I didn't even know it until the Peter Kessler piece started to get some real gravity to it. I mean,
yeah, 1.9 million followers on Twitter. Not bad. It's a lot of people.
But it reminds me of like God rest his soul, like Stuart Scott or some of like those not original, but those ESPN anchors from like 10 years ago. Because I first got on Twitter with my original account in 2009. And I remember getting on strictly for sports purposes because I just love like talking shit about the draft and like, what's Bill Simmons talking about and like, and then this, that, and the other. And to see a guy like SVP with that many followers, it's like, oh yeah, that's, but Scott Van Pelt might be the coolest, like average guy ever. Like he's not imitatable. He doesn't have a catchphrase other than being bald and have glasses and being tall and being a sportscaster. I know I just described 4 big things there, but I mean, it's like he doesn't have... I can distinctly remember him in some of those SportsCenter commercials, which is some of my favorite, and he didn't even have a theme. He was just a funny guy in every fourth one.
It's your everyday guy.
Isn't that what we asked for like somebody to be in a prominent position, whether you're president of the country or like just like at least we all have our eyeballs on you and our ears are listening to you? I want somebody who's like, I like humility. It's really great. I'm not saying he has it or doesn't. It just, whatever Scott Van Pelt has, it works. So,
yeah. That's
why he's been doing what he's been doing. And while ESPN's going through tons of changes and cutting back or whatever, he's pretty much been galvanized as being like, kind of like one of like the Mount Rushmore guys Not of all time at ESPN, but right now for sure. Like 10 years ago,
For
absolutely.
sure.
Now, absolutely. So, anything else you want to mention in terms of?
I guess we have a future interview. I'll give Tucker, I think, has one coming up with Jerry Foltz.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So many things are bouncing around now. I mean, I know we're kind of on the Ron Mintz and Ron Reed train, and that train might be chugging to a Hank Haney station anytime soon. I mean, I had like these three things where like we got the PK arm, we got the Kip Henley arm, and then we got this Hank Haney thing going on over here. This is great. What do I want to work on today? Or like, what do we want to? I mean, it's just we got all this. Oh man, I mean, I don't want to say like other podcasts aren't like because I just listened to the Laying Up podcast that they were doing their Rocket Mortgage recap, and it was a lot of fun, but it was just them. Like, they're smart guys, they're good golfers, they give great insight, and they're at all the tournaments. That's important.
Yeah.
But all that being said, like, they'll have a guest on, or they'll have an interview or whatever. But part of me just looks at it like, as I told a coworker yesterday, I look at myself as like a half-cooked shock jock. Like, I don't have a good voice, I don't have a catchphrase, I don't have anything really except the fact that you want to podcast with me.
You have a good radio voice, and you have a catchphrase. I'm all right. Don't nobody worry about me.
Okay, that's me and Mr. Logan's secret right there.
I guess.
But that being said, I mean, it's like I don't know. I lost my train of thought because of the compliment. Thank you.
Oh, that you have no.
Well, we need to. This one went a little. We're not running long, but it's longer than last week's. Zach, do you have a Canadian fun fact for us?
I do. So you mentioned before what I did this week, and I mentioned it was the long weekend. Do you know why it was a long weekend and we didn't have Monday off?
Bastille Day.
No.
Why'd you hesitate? Oh man, I thought I was right.
So last week we had a long weekend for Saint Jean Baptiste Day, which is a holiday in Quebec. This week it's a national holiday.
Well, Boxing Day is the 26th of December, so it's not that.
Well, you have June 4th. We have July 1st. Canada's birthday.
Birthday. Canada's birth. Oh, that's so funny. We
it's
should
Canada
call
Day
July
today.
4th America's birthday, but we call it Independence Day, which is fair. But part of me is just like, oh wait, Canada has an Independence Day. It's just like, yeah, jackass. Maybe every country in the world has an Independence Day. Just think about it. But then I want to be like, well, I don't want every country to have to like break themselves from tyranny, even though that's what they need to do. It's like, wow, there's a lot of tyranny out there. If there's a lot of Independence Days, what do you think about that? I mean,
yeah, no, I agree. I have a good song to end the podcast with.
So real quick, what year was your Canada's birthday?
Do not ask these questions. You're gonna make me look real bad.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I mean, is it at least later than 1776 is America? That was when we won the Revolutionary War and started all our paperwork or whatever.
What? Sorry, you cut out.
Sorry. No, what I mean is July 4th, 1776 is when like we started putting our paperwork in as a country or whatever. So I'm not going to assume you know.
So Canada, I obviously knew this right from the start. I was just making small talk. It was obviously July 1st, 1867. Who wouldn't know that? To say I'm on Google right now finding that is just embarrassing. I would never.
So what happened? What did Canada do? Did you guys liberate yourselves from like the Eskimos or what?
We got ourselves from England.
Oh, see, forgive me for being ignorant there, because I know Canada has a lot of ties to Native folks and the French or whatever, and I know why for the French. But when, and I might sound like a shitty American saying this, and I don't want to end on this note, but I do appreciate that our country became a country. But in the 1770s, like when we were starting our American Revolution or whatever against Britain, poor Britain, America was another colony to them. Just another colony with just a lot more acreage and a whole bunch of people shooting, as opposed to all like Guam or like all these stupid islands or whatever, where they're like just all this stuff they hopped around on. Not to say we wouldn't have won the Revolutionary War in America if like Britain actually cared, but it is kind of I've viewed a lot of unbiased generic historical facts or whatever, where it's like when England lost the Revolutionary War, it didn't bother them that much. They were just kind of like, yeah, that thing got out of hand. Like those people escaped from England because they didn't like what we were doing. Ironically, we're doing the same thing the English did to us hundreds of years ago. I mean, seriously, if you look at America, Like, look at Massachusetts. They have the most laws and the most taxes when it comes to most things. I mean, Sam Adams, the brewery, God forbid, they claim they're like the first brewery in America. Fine. But because of that, they have so many tariffs and local rules to shipping that you cannot ship any alcohol in or out of the state of Massachusetts without Sam Adams' blessing. St. Louis, where Anheuser-Busch, you may know them as Budweiser, lives, that's not a rule.
It's Rona season. I'm all about the Ronas. And the Jaeger bombs. That's what I did this weekend. You knew that.
Jaeger bombs. I know we have a decade of age between us, but when you texted me that saying you're doing, when you said like you're not gonna guess what I'm drinking or whatever, I'm like, oh no, and then he said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're how old? Yeah, of course.
I was probably too many Jaeger bombs deep.
Well, I started making when I was in the service Jerry bombs, which is Jaeger bombs are way better, but you would take a shot of Sailor Jerry rum and you would drop it in like a glass of Coca-Cola or Diet Coke or Coke Zero or whatever, and that was your bomb.
That was your Jerry bomb.
Yeah, it's not good chugging a full pint of soda pop with liquor. I mean, or for Jaeger bomb for that matter.
It's fair. Fair.
Anything else you want to address, Zach, before you take us out with our song?
No, I think we're good. Should we,
Well, we really appreciate Big Heads Podcast Network for letting us maintain and be here. And if you can't, find us on the website, which is www.fromthebacktees.com. You can find me only on Twitter at JerryLouLooper1. That's the number 1. And that's all I got. I got no plugs except the hole in where my tooth used to be.
That's fair. All right, we're out of here. Now you get to hear this great song. What do you think's coming?
It's not Gloria, so take it away, buddy.
Beautiful.
Don't talk over it.